Hey, 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 everyone. You're at EZIPS here for CSM Practice, the customer success strategy consulting firm, the first one in the world. And we're bringing you yet another brilliant episode. This time it's with the one and only Stijn Smet. Stijn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I've been watching these episodes. I was going to say since I was a baby CSM. You're one of the first CSMs leaders together with Christy Falteruso that I've started to follow.
Anybody that's listening here, stop being dependent on getting new business for their business to grow and start want to harness the existing customer base to get additional upsells, to get your customers to root for you and be completely stoked about what you do for them. This is the episode to listen to because our dear friend Steino here is gonna share all his secrets on how he does more revenues than new sales deals every single year. Can you show the graph? Yeah, this is our aha moment. Okay, do you want that? I want that. Do you want that? Everybody wants that. Light blue is customer success.
Yeah, and it starts at the same level.
So, literally, what we're seeing here, the blue is new sales deals coming in.
Yeah, for educational purposes, I deleted. You see a little red at the bottom. It goes down a little bit further. That's our churn and contraction. But for this podcast, it's all about expansion and bringing in more revenue. So you will see at the bottom line, it starts up with the dark blue is indeed new sales, new clients coming in into Whale or the company that I work for. But at the same line, you have the light blue that's literally towering over the new sales. And that is all CS doing. To be clear, some of the deals I don't want to take that much shine away from sales as well. Sales already brought in some new deals that were small, but again, we know they would expand over time, but it's our job to do it soon and do it quickly and do it as efficient as possible. So in that sense, I will give sales also a little bit of credit for that light blue.
I think what we can see also that this is a recent trend. Like you crushing it sometime in January. And before that, actually, you had way more new sales deals than upsells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about December, November, October, before things started blowing up. What was the situation like? What did you guys do differently that caused you to say, no, 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 we need to change our ways? This cannot go on.
Especially, I was the first CSM at Will. Will is a relatively new company which had no CS foundation whatsoever. So the first year and a half, I spent a lot of my time building in the CS methodology. You need to have a solid foundation to go forward on. So that onboarding strategy, adoption whatsoever. So expansion or that bringing in that extra revenue wasn't the main focus for me nor for my team. But of course, by the end of the year, you're setting goals for 2024. And as an early startup, you want to triple, quadruple your revenue, of course, especially in the very beginning. And there were already a lot of talks online in the community of CS that we needed to step away of the traditional way on how we do CS work. Also, I was just tired that we are kept on referring to as a cost center. We're not. I was like, I'm working day in, day out, like a dog to retain these customers. I'm not a cost center and I'm going to prove you otherwise. And then at the beginning of this year, I attended a conference and I sat in a certain someone session that opened my eyes on how to be strategic. And I remember having this little paper and writing down that what that person, maybe you know her. No, no, it's you. That opened my eyes as well with that little like drawing that we made on the paper. And I was like, yes. And then I got to talk with like Elodie and Maria as well and talk about the future of CS. And then I came back from the conference and I was like, okay, I need to find ways on how to bring in more revenue. And it gave me a lot of energy. And there is where I start cooking spaghetti, throwing stuff to the wall and hoping that stuff sticks. Found the golden nugget. I think for us, what works for us, 100%.
Obviously, something triggered it. I'm glad I was instigator here. I think I would have gotten there anyways because you're super driven. Nobody puts baby in the corner. You're like, no, 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 no. I'm going to show you something else. And what I like about this process is that you took extreme ownership. You looked at how you're doing things and how you could change your ways. Kudos for you. Let's open it up a little bit at a high level. What was the big idea without getting into all the details and the how? What was the big thing that you changed?
The way on how we looked at product usage data of our customers, that would be the biggest way. Just on how we handle QBRs and product usage data, like that combination, that is what I want to get changed. Because again, having to sit in conversations where you're just prepping that monster of a slide deck, where you are talking 95% of the time to your customer and they are only 5% at work in that call, and you're like, you're using this, you're using that, you're using this, you're using that, really great, you're above the curve, you're adopting, the product is being used as it should. They are your customer, they should use it. So why sitting into a call and just stating the obvious? So that was something that was not bringing in revenue, and that needed to get changed. How we looked at product usage data and QBRs in general is something that I needed to get changed.
Here's what I'm hearing. I thought to yourself, okay, I need to increase upsells. I have this very strategic meeting with a customer called QBR, where we mostly do the talking and tell them something that they already know or stating the obvious. What if I could flip that around? And instead of having us telling them some stats that may or may not care about, can we leverage other pieces of data like usage data to open up a conversation around what we do matters for their business and create an enrollment conversation where the customer is bought in to actually use us for other use cases or in other departments?
100% is indeed the train of thought that I had beginning of the year. And especially also we sat an OKR where my CEO just came to my desk and he was like, last quarter, you did this amount of expansion. How about that we triple it? And any normal professional manager would be like, let me calculate, let me forecast. But since I was like 8 months in the head of CS role, I was like, hell yeah, we're working on a startup. I will quadruple it. Not the best way because I didn't have any clue what to do. But like on the other side, it fired up my ass to make sure that I hit that Q1 goal, which we were shy of literally $100. Having that fire or just having that match near you really makes you do crazy things.
I love that. And if you can show the graph again, we'll show how changing this small thing, it's not so small, like there's actually art into it, and we'll get into it in a second here, but just changing that a little bit. Look, now we're in July. So one, two,
This is July.
yeah, this is July. It's right around that middle. Can you show us where January is?
This is January. We had a very good December. So January, February, March, April, May,
Yeah. Look at
June.
January
So this
and
is
how it
January. Yeah.
compares to December. December, there's a big spike, obviously, in new sales deals, but also November and October. How little the upsell is versus new sales deals. And then something dramatic happens after January. You could see it's split almost. And then February, there's more upsells than there are new sales deals. And then in March, there's way more upsells than new sales deals. And then it just continues to crush it. So, what is that secret? That's what we're going to dive in right now. I want to talk about it. Before you had different stats, and I think it's legit to kind of tell customers what is it about, but you felt like you were talking more and the customer was talking less. So, can you show us what are the new talking points that you entered into the QBR conversations that you feel more made all the difference? And what are the three things that you entered that was new to the QBR process? It's what made the difference. Maybe it's not even just the QBR, maybe it's something else.
First of all, no slides anymore, or just a couple of them. I've threw away the deck. Well, I still make the deck, but I only send it afterwards. The reason why, because I want to have a face-to-face conversation when doing a QBR. A QBR is to get sense of renewal, churn signals, expansion signals. So all of these things are super important. So one, no slides whatsoever. Second to all, I invite now everyone to the QBRs. Basically everyone that I have contact with. Like QBRs, what often happens is that you only do them with the decision maker that is like the big show where you, like QBRs are often painted off like, hey, a QBR is a big show where the decision maker will see everything that we've done in the last quarter and will decide if we will move forward. Like, this is how we sell it often to our teams. I want everyone that has contributed to the project, to the rollout, to the onboarding, to the adoption, to be in that call. Props is where props is due as well. If something goes very well, let's celebrate all together. It's not only the decision maker that we want to impress, it's also the champions that are on the project. And also, it creates a sense of accountability and responsibility. If there are super important things being discussed in that QBR and you need to debrief it to someone else on their team in another call, it makes you lose time. So just everyone in together in one call and set the goals for the next quarter. And then the third thing I would say is the return on investment that I will show you later in this episode. But that was truly the game changer. Customer success return on investment discussion calculator.
In order to leverage QBRs to drive upsells to new heights, to new rates, to like propel this thing, the first thing is very simple. Stop the sliding. Stop like bombarding them with slides. Maybe have one or two, but make it the emphasis on a two-way conversation. Easier said than done, I would say, for more people. I think most of us kind of anchor our safety zone into the slides because it gives us a talk track on what to talk about. What did you do to taking away that crutch? Feel empowered to have a good agenda, to know what to ask. What was kind of like your preparation for the meeting? And then how did you coach the rest of your team? Because we know Stin has a lot of confidence and can talk about anything with anyone, but not everybody's like that. So I want to hear about the recipe for that.
100%. So the thing is, what a customer can't see, they don't know. So why don't you prep your slides, but just don't share your screen? You have your talking track. Almost everyone works with two screens. Again, I still prep those slides. I still send them afterwards just as a reference point. It's not my crutch anymore. So make them, have them open, especially in the beginning. I shat my pants literally the first 5 QBRs where I tried this. I've been in this game for 8 years. I've been doing it with slides for the last 7. In the beginning, I had them open next to me, and then it naturally grows. And it also is for the rest of my team. Everyone does CS in their own way. So I was like, guys, still prep the slides. Try to use it. If you still need to open a slide as a reference point in your first call, go ahead. I'm not one to say, we're doing it this way. I'm more of a leader that is just like, try. I'm trying as well. I have this idea, just try it and give me your feedback. We can alter it. So again, everyone tried it in its own way. Everyone else has its own talking track, which is perfectly fine. And they get deals done as well. So in that sense, everyone does it on their own way. I just now know by heart how my talking track is going, and that's without slides and just the return on investment calculator that I open from once in a while. But I do CS from the gut and from the relationship that I've built. So it's more of a conversation that we have than actually a one-man show that says like, here is product usage data. It's a heart-to-heart with my customer that I have. The first question that I ask is like, how you've been, how was the product, did we fix the problems that we said we were going to fix at the beginning of this quarter?
I love that because I was going to ask you about have a two-way conversation. You have to ask some questions. Otherwise, you could just talk about the slides and never ask them anything, and you're still talking all the time, like we do in podcasts sometimes or webinars or whatever.
But that's the thing with QBRs as well. We often show these 40, 50, 60 slides. And at the end of that slide deck, what do we ask? Are you content? Are you happy? Of course, they're not going to say no if you're just blasted 60 slides with all green graphs. Of course, they're not. You're compelling them to say yes. And then at the end, you're surprised that they churn. Of course, you didn't ask the right questions and you just like overloaded them with information. No one is going to be honest if you're putting on a good news show and be like, this is great, this we can work on a little bit better, this is great, this is maybe a next point of action. And then you're going to ask them how they're doing.
So that's what not to do. what are the questions that you almost always ask in every QBR that you think makes a difference for you? Maybe you could share a few of those with us.
Yeah, the biggest one that helped me throughout my entire career that I know a lot of people hate asking because it gives them the shivers. If you would renew today, would you do it? That is a question that even I sometimes, if I know the answer, I'm super reluctant to ask it, but that gives you literally everything. It is the most honest, it's most pure question that you can think of. Because if they say yes, they need to give you the reasoning why. If they say no, they also need to give you the reasoning why. So, in that sense, it's a great green flag, red flag spotter. And that is, again, basically the sole question that covers all the secondary questions that you want to ask. Because the traditional questions are like, what do you want to do next quarter? What are your goals? What can we help with? But those are superficial questions. I think those are good questions to ask. But if you want to go to the core and just lock your renewal down, because again, that's what you're here for, just ask them. Like, if you would renew today, would you do it? And then those secondary questions come into place. How is the quarter going? What are the issues that you're struggling with right now as a business? Not for my product, but as a business. And how can we help overcome those struggles? Maybe we can't. And we can just send you good vibes and hope that you can overcome those struggles. But you are a CSM. I'm not only here for Will, I'm here for my customer. I want to know how they are doing. I want to know their struggles. And if I can help, I'll here for it. If I can't, I'm just being the big cheerleader that I am, trying to support them any way, shape, or form that I can.
Okay, so I asked if you could renew today, would you? And they said the yes or no, and then I asked the why. How do you lead from that into an upsell? And do you start with that, or is this the question that you ask towards the end, or do you just pepper these questions throughout? Like, what's your secret sauce?
If I'm in a good mood, I start my QBR with that question. If you could renew today, would you? Most of the time, if I know if the renewal is literally locked in, and again, it's more and more related to the thing that I've built, the return on investment calculator from a CS point of view, that makes me more confident on asking that question to start with. The reason why, because I filled it in with all of their data and I know what's coming. Like if they don't have a high return, then I know it would be a no. But then I can still use a return on investment calculator and tell them how they could improve. So in that sense, often of times I start with it. If I don't feel sassy or spicy, it's more near the end.
Thank you for that. I think that's an important distinction. This is what we call a discovery phase in any meeting. And so you start with a discovery phase on the call. Now, you also said that the second thing that helps you and that you changed since January is that you started inviting everyone. So tell me, what did that open up for you? So, first of all, kind of like everyone, including the tech
No,
ad.
no. Most of the time, it's also with Whale, and it works perfectly for us. The accounts of Whale have definitely have one decision maker and up to 4 champions. So there are often not more than 5 people in the call. Can happen that if we have like a huge enterprise client that we have a team of 10, but then again, it's rarely happens. So we often go up to 5. So in that sense, the reason why that is because I truly believe at the end of the day, it's not about a product, which is completely controversial, what I'm going to tell you, but it's more about developing the skills. You're developing personal, hard, soft skills, like using a platform. If you use HubSpot very well, your marketing skills are super high developed. If you're using Monday.com very well, your project management skills are very highly developed. So if you're using Whale, your process training or your training, the skills on how to train someone are super highly developed. So in that sense, I want to get everyone on the call to showcase also like the personal growth that the team has done. You must never forget that a champion of your product, a person that works with you day in, day out, is not hired to be a champion of your product. It often comes on top of their daily routine. And that often doesn't get highlighted in a QBR because you're talking one-on-one with the decision maker. If you have everyone of the implementation team on the whatever you want to call it on the project team is on there, you can showcase on how a person has grown. You can showcase on how everyone is doing, how a partnership works, because we often forget about that. And it's super important that you highlight the skills that someone is developing. And it creates even a tighter partnership. My quote that I do at every kickoff that I give is always, I will work for you, but on the payroll of Whale. I am a part of your team. And transparency is one of the core values of Whale. So if things turn to shit, why also not take common responsibility if we don't get a goal, if everything turns to shit, for example? And that helped us opening up that conversation.
I want to reiterate emphasis on two-way conversation versus reading out of slides that they already know. You invite more people instead of just the decision maker. You open it up for up to 5 people, honed in on what's in it for them. What was the celebration moments and wins and the skill development of the people who attended the room and just people in general. And you do that to drive accountability, to develop the relationships, and to showcase personal growth. The third piece was the big reveal that we're going to do next is the ROI calculator. And here, what you're doing is not only prove the value, but prove that if they don't do more, they're missing out on additional value for their company. So let's talk about that. What is it that you've done, changed?
Just return on investment. We all know them. Sales uses them until the end of the world. It's on every marketing website of a product. If you have this, this, and this, you will save this. But that's the dream. How can you make it tangible? So I was looking at our ROI calculator and I was like, how can I translate it but make it tangible for our customers? And I'm sitting on this humongous mountain of product usage data. And there are some things that's called ChatGPT. So with those 3 in hand, I went out on a huge quest to quantify it on what it means to use Whale. But it basically applies to every product. Every product has a problem state. This is a problem, the jobs to be done. This is the jobs that you will be doing with our product. Faster, quicker, better, more efficient, like every word in the book. One of the things that you need to know about Whale is that we are super great in storing process documentation, any kind of documentation. If you store that in a Google Drive, in a SharePoint, how often are you looking for a document for 30 minutes, especially in a larger team? And again, you are looking for it, especially in big, large companies. You have this huge SharePoint with outdated documents, new documents. You don't know who the owner is. Does it get reviewed? Stuff like that. So I did some research and asked ChatGPT, like, hey, if you're looking for a piece of documentation in a SharePoint, like how long does it take? 15 to 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, but can you give me the research? Can you give me, and actually there is research that people like checked it with time. So it was super easy. And then I had the product usage data for my customer. Like, hey, this is how long you do over it. We brought it to the mean, and the mean Whale is 3 minutes. And then we went to process creation. Super easy in Whale. Takes 1 to 2 hours to make it in Word or any other where you can construct processes. And the same for training. Training, 7 hours if you're just a general training day. If you do it with Whale, an entire training is like 7, 8 of an hour, basically. So what I've done, and now the moment supreme, is build an entire return on investment calculator, as you can see here. So what we do is make the distinction between the amount of SOPs that they've created, the amount of SOPs that they have, and the amount of training sessions, basically. I have this entire thing well thought out with the formula, with the benchmarks, with a comparison between the hourly rate of an employee, because we're all about saving time and saving employee costs. And I will share like the blank afterwards, or if anyone is interested, please feel free to take a screenshot. But I think the most important thing that you need to see is this one. We put it into a report. We put it in a monthly our report where we go over 15 minutes, save 12 minutes per search. So again, the hourly rate of an average American employee is $25, following like statistics that I found. So $25, you did 88 searches in Whale, So 88 searches multiplied by 12 minutes. And then also that hourly rate is $444. And this is tangible. This is built out of their product usage data. This is not a dream that I'm selling. This is actually raw data that they perform. And then I did it with a customer and I was like, because of course in the beginning you think like this can't be true. And now when one customer, we did like a survey where they were like, do you have more time for the day-to-day process tasks? And they were like, yeah, since Will is there, we are up and running more and we find questions, answers easier. And this is what you want to see. This is what you want to give, creating documentation. Most of the time, managers are creating documentation. Hourly rate, $40. They created 106 documents, cards. So all of that together, $2,120. This is tangible. This is something that you want to share. Then training your employees, but overall, the total amount of savings is close to 3,000 euro, like dollars. This is what you want to see. So this is what changed for me. And sending this, using this, is the result of the graph that we saw in the beginning of the podcast.
Wanted to emphasize a few things that we've seen here. One, sometimes we feel like the ROI calculation is overwhelming. The first step that what Stijn did is to look for statistical data. I don't know how many times people said, well, I don't know how much their employees are making per hour. Well, it doesn't matter. You just get the stat that most of their employees are in the US. Well, what's the average hourly rate? You might fear, oh, but that's not their hourly rate. Well, once they see it, they might say, you know what? Ours is actually 30. Okay, you correct it, you recalculate it on the fly and replace it. That's fine. But at least you come to the table with a formula and you fill in the gaps with statistical data. And that's totally fine. I want to emphasize he did that with how much time does it typically take? He doesn't know how long it took them to create these processes before, but he has a statistical data that it usually takes 30 minutes. And he has actual data of how long the process takes now. Was that good enough for the client? Yeah. Because you know what? The client doesn't know either how long it takes his employees, but he can trust statistical data. That's probably the same because they're just humans and it mostly takes that. If it sounds reasonable, they're going to go with it. Did that sum it up?
Yeah, 100%.
The other key point that he's done, he didn't just take one usage point. He actually exposed 4 different ways where he could do some savings and accelerate the time to create training, standard of procedures with processes. There were like, I think 4 of them there. Why did he do that? Let's talk about the why. Doesn't matter what exactly which ones, just the fact that you had multiple ones. There's a method to the madness, and I want to expose it. Even today, I had an ROI calculation with a customer, like discussion with a customer today, and they were very hung up on, well, which metrics do we actually know about the customer? That doesn't matter. What matters is what you think you impacted. How do you go through the document with a customer? You have these 4 points. How do you go through it with a customer to kind of create that, make that bid for an upsell discussion?
First of all, before we share it with the customer, we go into the history and be like, okay, how many teams are there still open? Like, what are the talking points that they set from the start? We grab back to our kickoff. We do some research to what teams are already on the platform, which not, because otherwise it doesn't really make sense to like be like, hey, this is an expansion. We often also use it if they're completely expanded as a renewal tool to make sure, because again, Will is a monthly subscription revenue model as well. So if the client isn't on a year contract, it helps us month over month renewals because that is also dragging to slay on its own. But that being said, we first the investigation on like, okay, I know these 3 teams are not on there yet. And we go even that extra mile and start researching the current struggles that those teams have. We are good at storytelling. We're CSMs. So like we have this entire story in our head. Like we know, like, for example, finance is not in there. And then we do some research, like what are finance people struggling with? Oh, AI, automations. And then we take that as like a relatable upsell shouldn't be hard selling. I do it very from the emotional point of view and the relatable point of view. So we go over that document and be like, oh my God, the teams that you already have smashed it out of the park. Imagine that your finance team that we know there are a lot of struggles for automation and AI and they're scared. But what if we can already grab them on the train and show them it's easy and that they can master it? Stuff like that. Or for HR, like onboarding is so hard in remote environment. Why not like get your HR team on wheel and make sure that we automate that entire onboarding? And they're like, oh my God, yeah, if we already saved that much, maybe HR can save much more. Like it's all about storytelling, and that worked well for us.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Like you prove the value with this ROI calculator, and then you transition over to, okay, which departments are they not using my tool yet? Have a great story and then open it up to see would they do an internal referral.
Worked very well. And also it's the most pleasant way for me and my team to work because big side note, we weren't revenue minded at all. Again, because we were afraid to use hard sales tactics, we found a way to not use them. We just basically used everything that we had until that point, altered it, shifted the focus, did a little bit of the storytelling, and made sure that we found a way that was 1000% authentic. And I think that worked very well. And at the end of the day, it's all about being authentic. You can't sell anything as a CSM, as sales. If you're good as a sales, you can sell anything. But as a CSM, you have this long relationship with them. So at the end of the day, you need to be authentic. And if you can use and weaponize it, and I use it in the most peaceful way, weaponize your authenticness, that will get you far. And again, it really worked well for us.
What a great way to conclude this interview and conversation. Don't be selling, be inspiring, tell stories, do your due diligence ahead of time, talk about stuff that creates conversations that unroll customers and everything else that they could have for themselves. And I think you're such a champion for a vision for a customer, for wanting to make them be more successful than they already are. And when you come from that position, everything opens up for you. It's all about the karma.
And follow people on LinkedIn that inspire you. Like I read, like Christy, like Diana, like everyone else that like you look up to. Those are also part of the confidence that you're building. You're living proof. You put your mind to something, you will get it, and never take no for an answer. And that is also a big part of my growth this year, not only expansion, but also being as a leader, is that you never need to take no for an answer. And if it fails, back up and you try it again. If it fails, back up and you try it again, and you share in this amazing community. And if it doesn't work for me, maybe it works for you, and the other way around. But literally, no one in our community starts with, this is how I do it, and this is how I went successful. We always start with, this is how I failed and how you can learn from it. And this is what I love about people like you and the other leaders that I look up to, is because you don't say like, I went from this to this and not sharing how, but you went, this is how I fell flat on my face. This is how I picked myself back up. And this is how where I am right now. And that's the most selfless thing that I ever seen. So a big part of that is also contribution to where I am today. So thank you, everyone listening in that I mentioned. Thank you as well.
Thank you, Stan. You are full of love. I love having you on everything that I do. You're such an uplifter. You have such a great energy about you. I think your customers and your team and everybody around you is so blessed to have you. So thank you for coming to the show and giving some of that good stuff to everybody here.
It was my honor and my privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And I'll see you on my next episode.